That's pretty awesome. I think we should have got 50, but hey, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. 30 years is good. I think 30 years is really good. And in 30 years, there's going to be maintenance to the building and things that need done, and probably even now. I know the roof is going to be taken care of. There are probably things inside the building. I know that they were talking about different pieces of furniture that are in need of repair. So, okay, that's part of running a city. All right, so that's awesome. I'm glad to see the court is going to be here in the city of Huber Heights. HHOH.org is where you can find the work session videos. Go there, watch the entire. That's all I'm going to talk about today on the city of Huber Heights. Go and watch it. There's a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of discussion that maybe you want to hear. Stay involved, be involved. One thing I'm not going to talk about is this flyer that's been floating around on social media. The mayor put out a blog. The former mayor, Mayor McMasters, put out a blog about this incident. You can go over to huberresidents.org and check that out. I also shared it over on Truman's Town Hall podcast, so you can read it there. I prefer you to read it on my Facebook page. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't matter. I think, not that I agree with everything that he writes, even in this article, but I think it's good to take information from all kinds of sources, put it together, and kind of develop your own opinion. I think that is very important. Very important. When I read the newspapers, I read, the biased newspapers. I read the ones that claim they're not biased and try to put it all together. When I listen to talk radio or podcasts, I listen to left wing, I listen to right wing, and I listen to libertarian and in the middle, and folks who claim to be just, fair and balanced news folks. Not to quote the Fox News motto, but anyway. So, yeah, I recommend you read that article. I'm not going to touch on that because the first line on that, oh, good Lord, here, yeah, I guess I am. The first line on that really pissed me off to the point where I will say this. Whoever wrote that stuff and hid behind a fake name, I will call them a coward. I will call them someone without integrity. Not that I'm going to go point by point on this flyer and say, well, that wasn't right or that is right. Okay, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, somebody that was, like, as far as I know, one person received a flyer. It got posted on social media, and hundreds of us throughout social media have commented on it. So a lot of people have saw it. So one person gets it, yet, that's all they needed to do with social media. So social media is good and bad. We could talk about that another day. But so they put out a negative flyer against Glen Otto. It was one flyer that I know of. Some other people have claimed they received it, so maybe a couple here or there. It wasn't a mass mailer. Whoever wrote it, whoever sent it out, you're a coward. You know you're a coward. And it is not helpful. Because I'm going to tell you right now, what I truly believe, until I have further evidence to believe otherwise, is I believe that Mr. Otto nor his opponent, Miss Plevy, had any idea that flyer was sent out. Whoever sent it out, you're a coward. I'll say it again. You're a coward and you have no integrity. Because up until then, the city of Huber Heights and this election was going rather well. If you looked at different posts, it was all about issues. Here's what's done. Here's what's not done. I'm the better candidate. Choose me. From what I saw on social media and out on the internet and folks doing meet and greets and things like that. And talking to other folks. Nobody really said, oh, this person's saying this and this person's saying that. It was a pretty clean election. May the best person win the at-large seat. Anyway, the first thing that was written on that flyer really pissed me off, that Glenn did not vote for the Veterans Memorial. Let's just be clear on that. That's BS. That is total BS. And I have to confront that because I had just moved back, and then they, right before I moved back, the city chose to take over the Veterans Memorial, and we talked about that, right? And then they chose a location, and we talked about that, right? I'm not going to rehash any of that. You guys know how I feel on that. But I had talked to different council members. I said, look, we really do not, as the old group, Huber Heights Veterans Project, we do not want the memorial at Thomas Clott. And I was lobbying these council members to do it. There were many council members or to vote against putting it at Thomas Clott, not against the memorial. There isn't a soul that I had talked to that has said, no, we can't have a Veterans Memorial in the city of Huber Heights. It was all about location, and it was all about folks supporting the veterans, the citizen veterans who started this process in the first place. There was one particular council member, I'm not going to mention his name, but I supported him in an election previously, so much so that I had a family member stand out on election day with his flyers, and this council member did not win by a heavy majority, and in the end voted no voted with me. So I called this council member and I said, thank you for doing that. I said, we would like to see it in a better place. I don't think where they're putting it is going to be a good place, blah, blah, blah. Right. That's besides the point. I'm getting a little too deep in this because there's still feelings that I don't want to mar up the thing. I'm super psyched. Wherever they're putting it at Cloud Park, and I'm down with it. Okay, I'm on board. All right, I spoke my piece. I'm not going to go into it anymore. Let's just get back on track here. But that's BS, because Glenn, from day one, from the time, so I ran against Glenn Otto in 2015. I ran against Team Huber, and I ran against Old Council. I was on my own, right? I looked at things a little bit different than both of these sides did. But I also did not know how to run for office. All right, so I lost big time. Last place, lost. That'll humble you real quick. But as soon as I lost, I thought, what can I do? So we set up the Huber Heights Veterans Project. And then I set a meeting for it to gather residents to see who would be interested in helping me get this going, because I know there's been other folks in the past. So it wasn't not an original idea. We just got a little further than other folks in the past. I know there are other folks, and I'm not going to say, I know who they are. I'm not going to say their name on the podcast because I don't know if they want me to say their name on the podcast. But there was other folks who I looked to for this endeavor. But the first meeting I had, Glenn Otto and Richard Shaw showed up, knowing, and this was really close after the election. I don't even think they had taken office yet. Maybe they had. I can't remember. But they showed up to the meet. Okay, yeah. You know what? You ran against us. That's in the past. Let's get this going, because, for one, Glenn is a veteran. His wife, Andy, is a veteran. Their sons are veterans. Okay? Of course they care about veterans. For crying out loud. And he always said, look, when this was going on, if you watch those videos back, and this is the only thing I'm going to talk about, and I apologize, I kind of rambled on this, but the only thing, if you watch those videos back, you'll hear him say, look, I don't believe this is the right location for the memorial, so I'm a no on this, but I do want to see this go down. Maybe we go back and look for other things, and if you guys come back, I think there was one thing, if you guys come back and show us that, you went and looked at everything, and you guys have a little more to this, because there were other folks speaking out about having the memorial there at Thomas Clott. If you come back and you show us that this is why it's going there, then I'll vote yes for you. So, did he vote no against the Veterans Memorial? No, he didn't. He voted no against the location, the same as Richard Shaw did, the same as Seth Morgan did, and the same as Andy Hill did. All four of those guys voted no. Two of them initially, two of them stuck by their guns and got it done. One of them even provided an amendment to it. Seth Morgan provided an amendment that was going to help, gather a little more due diligence that what I was asking for and lobbying for. I'll say it. I don't care. I had a lot of passion in that, and I still do. And I can't wait for November the 11th to drive up to Cloud Park and watch them lay a wreath and dedicate this memorial. All that stuff's in the past. I spoke my piece. I asked the folks, but it's done. It's over with. Now everybody is on board. All right? Focus. I may come back a little later and have one more thing to ask. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. You know what? I don't have any power. I don't. I got a podcast. You folks listen to it, and I appreciate it. But I don't have any power. I can't make decisions, right? All I can do as a citizen is to talk about things, and hopefully other folks get involved and they talk about issues that they're concerned with. And maybe in the end, we all just join up as one, as a team, and, the government starts to act the way we want them to act and do the projects that we would like them to do and how we would like them to do it. And honestly, for this podcast, I was not planning to talk about the flyer because I wanted to let that die as well. But I did because I'm a loudmouth, I guess. I don't know. But it was the dumbest thing I ever read in my life because half of it's BS and lies. Half of it is just twisted in a way so you're like, oh, anyone who doesn't pay attention to Facebook, and believe it or not, there are a lot of people who don't pay attention to Facebook, and folks who are just in the community, there are folks out there working 60, 70 hours a week that don't have time for any of this stuff. And if they see this, say they do pay attention to Facebook every once in a while. Oh, wow, that's terrible. I can't believe this guy does it, I don't believe that any of the candidates had anything to do with it. I think someone on the outside trying to influence this election sent that 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever out. And like I said before, they're a coward. And I would say it to their face, just like Donnie Baker would say. Say it to their face, state law. Because anytime, one thing I would never do, I'm interested in politics, but I'm also interested in veterans' rights and veterans' issues, right? One thing I tried to never do is bleed the two together. I'm not going to use the military, use veterans as a political tactic. That is disgusting to me, and it pisses me off. I will advocate on behalf of all veterans. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, part of the Green Party, Constitutional Party, Veterans Party, whatever party, no party. If you are a veteran, that means something to me. It does. And when folks, that was the first thing on that doggone flyer. And boy, I was hot when I seen that. Hot, I tell you. So, anyway, that's enough of that. I did like 10 minutes on a flyer I wasn't even going to talk about. Oh, well, it's Truman's Town Hall, and I can do what I want. I'm going to do what I want to do. So, let me get into a little bit of the history of how, 50th episode, it's kind of a milestone. Maybe the 100th is more of one, right? But the 50th episode. In total, I think I've done like 80 podcasts. In the early 2000s, I did like 4 podcasts. What folks may not know is that around 2007, 2008, something like that, 2009, I can't remember, I was ordained as a pastor. Now, I will wait for you to pick yourself up off the floor or put your earbuds back in. We'll give folks a second. I know that's shocking. Yes. I was ordained as a pastor. I was going to preach the Word of God. At the time, I wasn't a Catholic, right? I have since converted to Catholicism because I love my wife.